Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are back recording about 7:45 Eastern time on Monday night before the NBA Finals. We've got the Bucks and the Suns. Hopefully we get a healthy Giannis in this series, but we will briefly touch on the preview of the finals for tomorrow, give our thoughts, predictions, all of that. We'll touch on the end of the Suns Clippers, the end of the Bucks and Hawks as well. And that'll be it for tonight. That show, we'll just do strictly NBA finals, all that. As always, subscribe to the Unwanted Opinions podcast wherever you find us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. You can also leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps Jay and I climb the charts. So go do that when you hit that subscribe button. You can also check us out on YouTube, Unwanted Opinions with Nick and Jay. Same thing with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Same name, Unwanted Opinions with Nick and Jay. Email us, unwantedopinionspodcast@gmail.com if you've got questions, comments, whatever. Jay, how are you, man?
I love that you got that down to a science, man. And I'm so glad that you do the intro instead of me because I feel like I'd mess it up every time.
What are we, over 180 episodes or something?
That's right. Somewhere right around there.
Somewhere
I think
around
so.
there.
170, maybe.
Ish. So yeah. I've done that 180 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you include the times we've messed up and had to redo
That's
it.
true. So we've done a lot before where we missed some recordings and, when
that
we were
sense.
new
Like
at this. Yeah.
Dude, does my face look like a lobster?
No, did you have fun?
I did, but
I mean, it's red, but it's
a little
not
burnt.
it's not as red as my Cardinal sign here in the back.
No, but after I got out of the
I know
hot
you
shower.
see that's new.
That is new. That's a good look. I like it. Bring some color to there.
It was a Father's Day gift, so.
Always forget you're a father. All right.
Yeah. But I hope everyone had a good 4th, fun, safe, hanging out with friends and family and everything. I know you missed my dad's party this year where he blew some shit up. Yeah.
It's probably best. Last time I was at his party,
that was a while ago.
That was a 4th of July party though, and that was the last time.
No, it was.
And that was the last time I partied with him.
Okay, that's what you were getting at.
On my back,
I thought you were going to say the last time I've been there. Yeah,
looking up,
funny.
busy. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this this NBA Finals. So we'll get to that preview here in a minute, but what do you want to start just at the tail end of which series first, the Hawks and the Bucks, or
let's
the
do Suns
because
they ended first. They were the first ones to clinch their series.
All right. Well, Chris Paul in the finals, first time in his career. He's 7 years old, 16 years in the league.
I think he's
finally
36.
made the NBA Finals.
Maybe he's 37.
36 or 37, however old he is. He's been in the league 16 years. He's been trying this for a very, very long time. And he finally broke through, got past the Clippers, the team that he used to play for in Staples Center. You could just see the emotion run down on his face. And he really just was like at a loss for words because he really didn't know what to say. And you saw him involving some of the Clippers fans, like Billy Crystal, who's one of the most famous Clippers fans, went over and hugged him. Lil Wayne was down on the court with him, dapping him up at half court. And
I think Lil Wayne's he's a fan of players because I feel like he roots for every team.
The dude was like the fan of the Heat when LeBron and
he just
D-Wade
roots
were there. Dude was always
every
courtside.
team that he likes the player on.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
And he's from New Orleans, so I think he rooted for the Pelicans when they had Anthony Davis, and I probably roots for Zion. Hell, I don't know, but I do know he's a Packers fan. Anyways, that's besides the point. But just the performance that Chris Paul put on in that second half, 31, hitting every shot. He was 7 of 8 from 3. I mean, it was just unreal. And if you don't like Chris Paul, if you think he was a loser before since he had never made the NBA Finals, it's only his second time in the conference finals, I just feel sorry for you because I've always been a fan of Chris Paul. He's had some of the worst injury luck with not only himself, but his teammates in big playoff moments where you don't even have to go through all of them because I'm sure everybody knows what they are. The hamstring, the hand, Blake's knee, just a whole array of things that just went wrong for him over his career. And I know you can say that about a lot of players, but for guys of his stature to not even get to the finals until now is very unheard of because what is he, one of the 5 greatest point guards of all time?
I was about to ask you that because I had a lot of time to think on the drive home today. And that was one of the things that was running through my mind was if you had to put him somewhere on the all-time list, where would you put him, and what players would you put ahead of him? Because there's only.
Do you mean just strictly point guards?
Yes, there's only. I think I came up with 2 or 3 that I was like, for sure I'd put them over him. But then after the second or third guy, I was like,
I'm probably only putting Magic and Steph over him.
Those were the 2. And then I was thinking Oscar Robertson. I know he played like a point forward role and he did different things, but you could make the argument for Oscar. And then after him,
Isaiah Thomas.
I thought about Isaiah Thomas, and I know he won 2 championships, and he had more help than, in my opinion, Chris Paul's ever had. People forget he had Dennis Rodman.
I mean, they were, those Pistons teams were really good, but he was absolutely the engine of those teams.
For sure.
And
for sure he was.
He had huge playoff moments in his career.
But when it comes down to it, I think as a player on my team, I think I'd rather have Chris Paul. I think he was a better point guard.
I would too, and I agree. I'm just saying, like I said, I would only put Magic and Steph over him. I think that even if he doesn't win the finals this year, I'll give you my prediction here at the end of the show, but I think just making the finals is just a huge accomplishment, and it's definitely nothing that hurts your legacy. Contrary to what people believe, it hurts LeBron's legacy that he's made 10, but he's lost 6 of them. That's just stupid. Like, just for example, like Jimmy Butler last year drug the Heat to the finals, and everybody was praising him, loving him, and he got absolutely no hate, which is deserved, but he lost. But I mean, he was getting like praise, like, look what he did, look what he drug this team to. Chris Paul should be getting that same love, even if he loses, because of where this Phoenix team was. I mean, they hadn't made the playoffs in a decade.
His first year there.
And it's unbelievable. I mean, in everywhere he goes, the winning percentage just goes up. I don't know the exact numbers. I don't have them in front of my face, but you can go look that up. Every stop he's been at, the team's winning percentage increases. And that's incredible onto itself. I mean, this Suns team probably would have been a little bit better than they had in the previous 5 years with Devin Booker, but they weren't going to be a finals team. They may have been like a 7 through 10 seed playing in the play-in tournament without Chris Paul.
Yeah.
That's probably their ceiling.
A lot of people are kind of overlooking the fact that Devin Booker kind of had an okay last 3 games. He definitely didn't well. He took a lot of shots.
What he did in the game 1 was unbelievable. And then the next 5 games, he was good, but not great.
And especially once he got that mask on, it
really fucked with him, yeah.
Yeah, it did. So he was taking a lot of shots and not being very efficient. So you see, he's dropping 22, 25, whatever, but it's taking 21 shots to get there. Yeah. And it's like
he's like 9 of 23 and 10 of 27 and not being very efficient. Yeah.
Then what Chris Paul did to go in to get him to the finals, 41.
How about 41? It's his playoff career. How about the 7 of 8 threes? Because that's just not really ever been. Chris Paul's a good 3-point shooter, but that's not what he's known for. I mean, he's the mid-range king. I mean, he does his little yo-yo dribble, which he did a couple times. That one on the baseline where the Clippers just got lost, and Patrick Beverley's pissed off at somebody else because he didn't go and switch out to him, and then he just hits that little mid-range jumper right there on the baseline. I mean,
like Chris Paul was even surprised on that. Like,
I think he was about there was no one within 10 feet of him. He's like, he was about to dribble, I'm going to shoot this.
And then he looked back and nobody's there, so he just dribbles backwards and turns around and shoots.
And he's like, all right, I guess I'll shoot it. But it was the best game I've ever seen Chris Paul play in my life. It easily was. I mean, just because
of the stakes
that were, I mean, and just the shot making that he had. I mean, he did have some of his classic Chris Paul flops. The one where
the worst,
the boogie kind of threw his elbow, but not really to the extent of how Chris Paul flew and fell over. I mean, you saw him even smile on the ground.
I hate flopping, man.
Anyways, everything that he did, just it seemed like he wasn't going to miss. It was one of those times where he was like, we are not losing, and I'm going to be the sole reason why we're not losing. He was like, I am not going back to Phoenix to give the Clippers any sort of life at all. He stepped on their throats.
Because there's a good chance they could have lost Game 7 if it went back.
Absolutely, because then the Suns have all the pressure on them in the world.
Yep.
And it's another 3-1 lead that Chris Paul would have blown.
Flip it. How do you feel about the Clippers losing yet again? I know they should get a little less flack this time around because
they definitely do.
They didn't have Kawhi, which is their best player, so I totally understand that. But Paul George didn't really play good in the closeout game. Once again, I think he had an okay game. I think he only took 15 shots, and when you're trying to be,
I think he was like 6 of 15 for 21 points or something like that, and I just want to say, I honestly kind of feel bad for Paul George. And that's hard for me to say that because just the disdain I have for Paul George since he left Indiana, because I loved Paul George. I revered Paul George with the Pacers. He was my second favorite player in the league behind LeBron. I thought he always went toe to toe with LeBron, usually in the biggest bouts. I know he came up short a few times in those games against the Heat.
He was outmatched by a lot.
But nobody expected them to beat that Heat team. Nobody. I mean, maybe some lunatic Pacer fans maybe thought that, and the biggest LeBron haters in the world. But still, so I always loved what he did, and I'm not going to go. We know everything that's happened since he left there, but I actually thought this run, other than he had some blunders in playoff series, and I mean that happens over a long run, just being worn out. But if you're going to hold him to the same standard that you hold all the other superstars to, you have to critique him a little bit, because no, I don't think he was aggressive enough in Game 6, especially early on in the game where it was close, where he just was kind of was passing the ball up to everybody else. He didn't really look like he wanted to take some shots. In the third quarter, he started going after Jay Crowder, who was in foul trouble, and that was the most aggressive that he was right there. But then once Jay Crowder got subbed out and Torrey Craig went in, that kind of stopped, because he knew that Jay Crowder either A, wasn't going to try and foul him, or if he got the foul, he was going out of the game. So, but a lot of the stuff that he did leading up to that's why it's so tough, where you want to critique him, but then you also want to praise him for the stuff that he did, because some of the games that he had, that Game 5 that he had, the 41, I mean, he, similar to Chris Paul, I think he had 30 in the second half that game. I mean, he was unreal in that game to save their season. And then Game 6, it just kind of sucks.
I think he was kind of gassed too.
I agree. And that happens to great players when they're trying to carry the load all the time. But a lot of the other great players don't get passes for them.
No one really helped him out in Game 6 either, other than Morris. Morris played pretty well. Morris hit some threes that I was not expecting to go in. But outside of him, who really stepped up to help Paul George? I mean,
they were out with 3 of their top players. I mean, they had no Zubats, no Ibaka, and no Kawhi. That's tough to win with any team if you're down without 3 of maybe your best 5 guys, because then you throw in Paul George and Reggie Jackson into those 5, and that's probably your best 5 guys, and you don't have 3 of them. That's tough to win any series.
What's your gut telling you happens with the Clippers this offseason?
It's going to be interesting because they don't really have a lot of flexibility. If I had to bet, I'd say that Kawhi stays.
I think so too. I've heard trade rumors.
I don't think that he wants to leave California.
I don't either. And
I think that Ballmer will do anything. If he doesn't like the medical staff, I think Ballmer will have no issue with firing him and getting somebody that Kawhi likes.
I think he kind of has to.
I agree, because he has no leverage. He has no picks. He has no cap space. Even if Kawhi leaves, they're strapped for cash. I mean, they can just go into luxury tax and sign Kawhi just because they own his bird rights. But Ballmer's at the mercy of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
For sure.
He really is. I mean, I think they should probably look to shed some of their bad contracts with as good as Marcus Morris was in those last 2 games. I think he's going to become a bad contract. And it's clear that Luke Kennard's is a bad contract, because you have a guy in Terrence Mann who's a better player on a cheap rookie deal.
And when you're paying guys like Morris the contracts you are, and they have one good game every couple series in the playoffs, just get rid of them. Go take all that money and spend it on 3 veterans that can help you out in other ways and have the experience, in my opinion, and get some shooters. You guys need some shooters to take some pressure off of Paul George and Kawhi to get you buckets elsewhere. I like Terrence Mann. I think he's a good player for him.
I like him too. I love the way he plays.
Again, they're without Ibaka, and I think he would have been a big help this postseason.
He'd have been perfect.
I think people are forgetting that they had him. So
I think he played 2 playoff games in the Dallas series, and that was it.
And I think honestly, there's going to be a lot less pressure on them next year if they stick together, because at this point, the first 2 years, it was like they had to win because Kawhi and him built the super team and they're taking over LA and LeBron's coming to the end of his career. They got to win now or else it's not going to happen. Well, now they've already lost. They haven't even made the finals the past 2 years. So now I think the expectations have lowered a little bit to they'll probably be the third or fourth best team next year, starting out in the West, maybe coming back. Denver gets healthy. So their expectations go from they should win the championship to they could be a contender next year.
Do you think their window's closed for a title?
I don't. I think Kawhi and
Do you think it's closing quicker than you may think?
I do think it's closing because Kawhi can't stay healthy.
No.
Paul George can't do it by himself. He's not a number one. He's shown that the mental game gets to him a lot. But I think if they bring in the right pieces again, and we said that after year one, they brought in pieces last year and people thought they were going to win the chip, and then some players got hurt. I don't think those are all the right pieces either, but I think I would have a better judge of that after the NBA offseason for me to tell you I still think they're a contender or they didn't do enough.
So you really just want to see how this roster gets better? For
sure, because I still think they could win it with the main pieces they have, but there's definitely some upgrades that are going to need to happen in order for me to think, okay, they could definitely win it all. But they have the key pieces in place.
Yeah. I just think they really have to keep Reggie Jackson. I think I think he's going to demand some money from a lot of teams. I think he was so important to them. I mean, the dude just turned into like the best isolation player in the league offensively. Yeah. I mean, he was getting anywhere. Anybody who got him on, he was taking them off the dribble. It really didn't matter who it was, but
got to get rid of Patrick Beverley, in my opinion.
Yeah, the horseshit push that he did on Chris Paul, that pissed me off so much. We were literally in a group message talking about how we were saying, none of us like Patrick Beverley, but we were like, would you want him on your team? And every one of our answers was yes. My answer changed immediately after he pushed Chris Paul like that, because that's so uncalled for, and there's no room for that in anything. I mean, Chris Paul just literally walked right by him, just looked at him, didn't say a word. I know they were chirping back and forth all game, but it was just like, you can't stop me, so you're just going to come push me in the back after the game or during the game when you're down like 20.
On top of that, I feel like there's a lot of Clippers players that really respect Chris Paul and probably didn't respect that move. I think you saw that after the game. Yeah. I
mean, you saw Ty Lue and Chauncey Billups give Chris Paul like the biggest hug in the history of the world after this, because as former players, they realize how hard it is to get to that level of playing in the finals. I mean, and this is his first time getting there in 16 years.
Yeah, so.
But I just hated that. But I agree with you. I don't think Patrick Beverley's on this roster next year. I mean, they got rid of, after the first year, they said bye-bye to Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams. This year, I think they have to upgrade definitely Beverley. And I don't know how they can upgrade that Morris position, but I just don't know if he's on the roster either, just because the amount of money that he makes for the little production that he gives you when it matters the most.
Yeah, we'll have to see. That's what I'll revisit it after the offseason, so I know who's on the roster going into the season.
Yeah. And if Kawhi leaves, obviously it's over for the Clippers.
Correct.
I mean, they're like a fringe playoff team without Kawhi all year, but I think he stays.
I do too. And like I said, I've heard trade rumors, but I'm not buying into any of them.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a report that Dallas and Miami are going to push hard after him. Well, no shit. Yeah. They're going to try their hardest to get him, but that doesn't mean they're going to.
I don't even know if Miami has the money to do it.
They could.
I feel like they would have to trade Jimmy Butler for him.
No, they'd have to get rid of the Iguodala contract, the Goran Dragic contract, but Pat Riley's smart, and he gave those guys 2-year deals at the end of last year, so they're expiring contracts, so they could make that money work, and then you can throw in Hero, Duncan Robinson. It'd have to be a sign and trade for.
I don't think they would do that, because I don't even think Butler would want to do that.
if he's going to walk, I mean, Miami's saying, or Clippers are like, well, at least let's get something back. We'll get Hero and Duncan Robinson, or two young shooters, two young players.
But I don't think the Heat will do that.
We'll get some picks. They would do it for Kawhi Leonard. There's no way they wouldn't. Jimmy Butler was the first player on Kawhi's list behind Kevin Durant over Paul George. So Kawhi absolutely wants to play with Jimmy.
I agree, but I think that's Jimmy's team, and I think Jimmy likes it the way it is, and he feels like they're one or two smaller pieces away.
I think it still is Jimmy's team, even if Kawhi's on that team, because Jimmy's such an alpha.
But you're missing what I'm saying. I think he loves his team, and I think if you're giving up half of the roster to go get Kawhi, I think they get worse.
There's no way. No, they do not get worse adding Kawhi.
And giving up half your roster?
If you're getting rid of Dragic, Iguodala, Hero, and Duncan Robinson.
Yes, I think you get worse.
Did you watch Tyler Hero play this year?
Yes. But he's only, 20 years old?
Yes. You go for the titles. You go for it if you're Miami. And I think Jimmy Butler knows that. He loves to win. I don't think he cares.
Yeah, he loves to play
shooters. They found Duncan Robinson as an undrafted
not
free
people
agent.
to sit on the bench.
Hey, he may just get pissed at him.
I'm telling you, that would work. They would be a
Kawhi
worse
didn't really
team.
load manage a lot this year. This past year, I think he played. Well, that's true, but still, that's different than just sitting out.
I'll be in the minority, but I'm telling you, if that were to hypothetically happen, I would predict that they would have a worse record going than they did last year. And they would be eliminated probably the same round. They'd be a worse team.
I think you're high. I don't think there's any team in the league that would add Kawhi and get worse.
Depending what you got to give up for him.
But to me, that's not a lot.
4 players.
If you get. Yeah, but two of them, first of all, Iguodala is just a salary dump, and Goran Dragic also.
We're only 1 year removed from them making the finals, where Hero played great, and Duncan Robinson
got swept in the
good.
first round by the Bucks.
Who are in the finals?
Okay. And next year, Brooklyn's better than them. Milwaukee's better than them.
Last year, with Kawhi and Paul George.
Atlanta's better than them.
What happened to them?
Who?
The Clippers last year.
What do you mean? They flew down the second round.
They had Kawhi, and what happened?
I'm not saying Kawhi's the end-all, be-all, because I know he has his flaws.
I don't think that would be a good
I'm just saying,
fit.
you have a big three of Bam, Kawhi, and Jimmy. That's pretty damn good.
That is a good
And that's a better team than what they have now. You're in the minority on that one, I think, Jay.
I think I would be too, and I have no way of getting proven right unless it happens.
Because I doubt it happens, but still, anyways.
And I think the Dallas one's baloney. I think you can throw that right out the window. I don't think he's going to Dallas either. No. I don't think he wants to move to Texas and play for Mark Cuban. What the hell is Dallas going to give up for Kawhi?
Well, they would just sign him as a free agent because they have max space for him. They wouldn't have to trade him at all.
Okay. They do, and Texas has no salary cap. I just don't buy him going to Dallas. I don't think he wants to leave LA.
I don't either. I really don't. I think he made too many moves to get to LA. And like I said, he can literally bend Steve Ballmer over the barrel and show him the 50 states.
I don't think that's a saying.
It is now.
All right.
Let's move on to that Bucks Hawks.
Yes. Bucks Hawks. What do you got?
All right. So Bucks Hawks 2-2. Giannis gets hurt in Game 5, I believe, or no, it was Game 4. He got hurt in Game 4 when they were up 2-1.
He missed 5 and 6.
Yes, and he missed 5 and 6, and the Hawks tied at 2. No Trae Young, Game 5. That one was kind of a little bit of a mess. The Bucks started out so well. Middleton and Holiday and Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez all played really well. Then Game 6, Trae Young comes back, still no Giannis. Kind of the same story. You could tell Trae Young was kind of playing on one foot. I think he was like 4 of 17, 0 of 6 from 3, and just didn't really have the juice. And the Hawks were just kind of running on fumes at this point. But I will say this about the Bucks. I will give Budenholzer a ton of credit because he actually used Brook Lopez in a way that Brook Lopez became an all-star by playing the way he did in Brooklyn, playing in the low post. And I wasn't ever like screaming, give him 40 paint touches, but I mean, give the dude a steady 10 to 15 in the half. I mean, you're bigger than the Hawks. They really didn't figure that out until game 6 when I think they scored 28 points in the paint in the first quarter. I mean, they finally figured it out. We're like, oh, okay, we have 2 7-footers. We did have Giannis before, but we were still trying to play 4 out, 1 in, and shoot a bunch of threes and just let Giannis go one-on-one. And I hope that this opens some stuff up in Budenholzer's eyes where he's like, okay, I can play a little bit of this. Even if Giannis is out there, Brook Lopez basically probably is a spot-up shooter type of guy because Giannis's guy can really just sink off of him and go double Brook. But when Brook's out there and Giannis isn't, that's some sort of offense that you can run that's different than what you've been trying to do over the past 3 years that hasn't worked in the playoffs. Obviously, they're in the finals now, so it looks all fine and dandy, and all of his blemishes kind of go away because you're like, oh, well, he's a coach and he made it to the NBA Finals. Nothing's wrong with him, really. That's kind of everything's just wiped away. But I still think that he has his flaws, but I really like the adjustments that he made in games 5 and 6 without Giannis.
I've been screaming for them to use Brook Lopez.
I know.
For like 2 years
we text
now.
about it every single game.
And it's like, if you aren't going to use him, then why do you have him? But they finally did it. And I've said that I think Brook Lopez might be the best back-to-the-basket center in the game. His hook shot is damn near impossible to block when
he's very skilled.
And, yeah, he has some of the best post moves. He's 7 foot tall. I think if they utilized him and, like, gave him – and I know there's certain teams that you're not going to match up that well against, and you got to make adjustments. But I feel like for the majority of the time, he could be a walking 18 and 9 or 10 on any given night, 20 and 10 on any given night. He was
that way with the Nets for, 4 years straight?
And then Milwaukee just started kicking him to the outside, and he can shoot, but he's not a knockdown three-point shooter, and that's not where you need him anyway. If you just want somebody to stand out there.
He had that 1 year where he shot like over 40% from a three and then got paid a ton of money, and then they were like, okay, we're just relegating you to the corner.
Which is horrible. They finally –
Agreed.
And I like your point because I didn't even think about it that with Giannis off the court, this was a way for them to figure out how if Giannis comes back – whenever Giannis is on the bench, let's revert back to that offense we ran back in games 5 and 6 when Giannis wasn't even on the floor, and we still have a way to get points and everything. So that's a smart move. Do you think Giannis is coming back?
Yeah, I think he plays game 1. I think
this is just what percent? Do you think he's fully healthy?
Probably not, but I think he's close to 75-80% of Giannis.
I don't think he's going to be fully healthy the whole series.
Well, I really think that the NBA did this strategically to give the Bucks 3 days off so that they could get Giannis back because they last played on Saturday. So it was Friday.
I told Rachel to look up what time they were playing tonight on the way home so I could watch it. And she's like, she looked it up and it was like, it's tomorrow. I'm like,
yeah,
that don't even make sense.
I really think they gave them Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I think part of it had to do with the holiday, so they were like, let everybody celebrate the holiday and not have to worry about it. But I really think the NBA was like, we need to get the biggest star. I know there's CP3 on the Suns, but Giannis is probably the biggest star in the finals right now, currently. Out of the whole group, and they were like, we got to get this guy at least a couple more days rest so he can get into this game. And I don't have a problem with that. I really don't, because I'd rather Giannis be fully healthy or at least close to fully healthy so we can get a good series, because there's been so many injuries in this playoffs. It just sucks. So I do not want to see any injuries in this finals because I want a good NBA finals.
I agree with that. I saw how
and I'm not sure that he's going to be 100% either. I'll agree with you on that.
Went backwards.
That shit was nasty.
It pushed the opposite way, and he went down yelling. And I don't think he's going to be able to come back and be fully healthy on that knee. And with the way he plays, he needs to be able to twist off of it and
absolutely
do spins in the lane or jump off of it to dunk and block and
his cuts and
I don't think he's going to be the same player this postseason. That really sucks. And I hope I'm wrong because, like you said, I want everybody at the max capacity of their team so that we can get the best finals possible. I I don't know. I don't think he's going to be able to come back all the way and be that effective. I think you're going to be able to clearly see that he is not playing at his full potential, and that kind of sucks. But what they did to get there, what about Chris
I just wanted to ask you, so we were actually debating Chris Middleton and Paul George a lot in a text thread with a couple other buddies, and I was the only one. I was on a lone island of I'd take Chris Middleton over Paul George, and I wasn't saying that Paul George sucked or anything, and that's what I think a couple of our friends were not understanding, that I just don't think the gap is as far. Like I said they're both in the 15 to 20 range. Like I would have like Chris Middleton 16th and Paul George like 17th. Like it's not like I have Middleton at like the sixth greatest player in the league and Paul George is sitting there at 44 or anything like that. Yeah. And that was the main point I was trying to make. But after these last two games, I'm not saying that I was right, but I think it helped my case because the Bucks' best player goes out and Chris Middleton leads his team. I mean, I think he was the best player in games 5 and 6. And then on the other hand, Paul George, the Clippers are without their best player, and Kawhi, they win game 5, but they lose game 6 to go to the finals. I know that there's different circumstances.
Go back one series when Kawhi went out. And Paul George did the same thing.
Paul George was phenomenal in game 5 and 6 against Utah.
He took absolutely 5 and 6 and took them to the next round. So he did exactly what Chris Middleton did. But what Chris Middleton did was fantastic. And he had somebody step up, and Drew Holiday playing like a man possessed as well.
We finally got a Drew Holiday sighting in the 2021 NBA playoffs offensively.
Did you hear what Charles Barkley said?
Which part?
In regards to where he said that this is like he thinks that Giannis going out for the Bucks was the best thing that could have happened to him.
It probably was. It opened up so much other and they're not going to win if Giannis isn't there, but I agree. And I think it showed those other guys that we can actually do some shit too. And I think it showed Budenholzer to do some other stuff.
Definitely should have got people more confident that they just went and made the finals. I know it was only 2 games without Giannis, so that if Giannis comes back, they're like, okay, now imagine how good we can be with our superstar back, and we're all playing at this level. So that should give them more confidence.
And how about Bobby Portis? That dude was on a mission in games 5 and 6.
I don't know why
he gets that crazy look in his eye.
I know. He looks like a nutbag.
He's like a psycho on the court, but I mean, hey, every team needs that guy.
The fans love him too.
They were chanting his name, and then he goes and misses both free throws, which I thought was fucking hilarious. Yeah.
But I agree, you need that guy.
He brought it in game 5 and 6, and he was really good for him in that Atlanta series. And this next series against Phoenix is a series that he can play in because of Ayton, because the Phoenix plays Ayton a lot. I'm not sure Dario Saric will play much, but Portis is a guy that can stay on the court and defend against. I'm not saying he's locking anybody up, but he's a guy that can at least stay on the court, because against Brooklyn, he didn't play for shit in that series.
Yep, and we both picked the right 2 teams to make the finals after the last round. I got them both right in 6. That was nice to see.
I did originally say Bucks in 7, and maybe if Trae Young doesn't get hurt, maybe I'm right. But anyways.
I thought the Bucks just were the flat out better team, and we can touch on the Hawks too, but they just had more talent. Even with when Giannis goes down, you would say that, okay, Trae Young's the next best player in the series. He got hurt. But then after Trae Young, the next 2 or 3 best players are probably all on the Bucks.
It's probably Middleton, Holiday, then Lopez.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you probably sprinkle in a John Collins and Kevin Huerter or Bogdanovich. Pick your guy.
Bogdanovich could probably take Lopez's spot. Either way,
probably I get your point. Yeah.
I feel like the Bucks were just a better team, and I told you when I made my prediction that I said Bucks in 6, and the only reason I'm taking it in 6 is because I thought they would have 1 or 2 games where they came out tired from the previous series. Mm-hmm. Game 1, they came out.
Yep.
So
and I really think in game 3, I know they were down fairly big at halftime, but they were starting to make a run, and then Giannis got hurt. I really feel like they were going to win game 4 and then go take a 3-1 series lead and then probably win in 5 because the Hawks didn't have Trae Young. And maybe it's a little bit different if Trae Young doesn't get hurt, but I really do think they were going to win that game before Giannis hyperextended his knee. I really do. And I know you can hearsay whatever, but that's just my belief.
Yeah. So I think I pray Giannis can be fully healthy, because I think this could be a game 7 game series where it could come down to the last shot in game 7 and be a fantastic game by game, not blowouts in game 2 and game 6 or anything. I think every game could be competitive with the way these two teams match up. If you were to tell me Giannis could be back, unless you had more to talk about the Hawks and the
Bucks.
Bucks.
Wanted to say, I just give the Hawks a ton of credit, and
no one expected them to be there.
Trae Young made a believer out of me, and I think a lot of people this postseason. I think he showed that he can be either a 1A or 1B guy on a championship level team. They just extended Nate McMillan, who led them to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is well deserved.
Yep.
Nate McMillan deserved that job. The way he turned that team around and got them past the 1 seed Sixers and beat the Knicks in 5. So, and the Hawks are going to be back next year. I mean, they'll get healthy and get back to the spot, and they're one of those top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference next year, and I think they're only going to get better. So that was the last thing. I just wanted to give the Hawks a ton of props.
Yep, and I ate my own words, because before the first series was even done with the Knicks, I said it doesn't even matter who wins the series because they're not making it past the second round. And they came out.
You can make the argument that they shouldn't have beat Philly, but they just had their shit together more than Philly.
Yep. So that was awesome to see. And like you just kind of alluded to, be ready if you're a fan of an Eastern Conference team and not name the Hawks, because
they're coming, man.
They're young. They're hungry.
Scared.
They're not scared. Now they have a taste of, we can do this. We can hang with the big dogs. Let's go see what we can do. So that's a team going into next year you are not going to want to see in the playoffs. Even if they sneak in as like a 7 seed, knowing what they did this year and what they're capable of with another year under their belt, watch out for the Hawks. But yes, hats off to them. Predictions for the finals.
This one's actually really tough because I don't have a rooting interest in this series at all, and that's the first time I haven't had a rooting interest in the finals in like 10 years. I really think that's the case, maybe even a little bit longer. But my heart says Phoenix for Chris Paul because this may be his last shot, but my mind says Bucks in 7.
What I was going to say earlier was, if you could guarantee me Giannis would be healthy, I would take the Bucks. I just don't believe that he's going to be healthy, and I will take the Suns. I think it would have been close with Giannis. I think without Giannis, the Suns just outmatch them. I think they outscore them. I think they can do it in too many different ways. I don't really think – I know you said stick Bobby Portis on Ayton, but –
no, I wasn't saying that. I'm just saying he can stick around in this series, and he's not going to be a guy who's unplayable for Budenholzer.
For sure.
Because they have a short bench, but Bobby Portis is a guy that can actually play in this series because Phoenix doesn't just go 5 wide and try and spread you out like the Nets did to him, and Bobby Portis couldn't keep up.
I think Chris Paul actually kind of takes a step back, not plays worse, but is just more of a facilitator and running the offense. And I think Devin Booker steps back up and starts giving you more 30-point games. And I think DeAndre Ayton actually steps up. And I know he's been playing so well, and I don't know how you can get much better than like 70%, but I just think
what did he have in game 4 or 5? He had like 19 and 22, or he was really good in that.
I just think his field goals makes are going to go up. I think he's going to give you more like 25 a game instead of 18 or 19 because I don't think Milwaukee has a real answer for him down low.
I think Lopez is a pretty good defender.
Not if he's chasing him around and then he can get on the pick and roll and then he gets stuck in the pick and roll. Who's gonna move over again if Giannis isn't fully healthy? Who's gonna guard that pick and roll? And there's some players like I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. The other veteran for the Suns that didn't really have a good game.
Jay Crowder?
Yes, that he didn't really do much.
He had one good game in the series, and it was game 6. I think he scored 19, and 16 of it was in the first half.
I think he knows he needs to step up too. So I just think the Suns team's going to come out playing all for Chris Paul. I think emotion's going to be high, and as bad as it sounds, I just think they're going to want it more than the Bucks will. Because
you think the Bucks will be a little bit satisfied just getting to the finals?
Kind of, because they did it without Giannis, and I think that was a big win. And I also think they had their biggest win when they beat Brooklyn, who everybody thought would run through them. So I just think that you have one team that wants it more, has the more veteran players and youth on their side, without a healthy superstar on the other side. So again, if he's fully healthy, Giannis, I would take the Bucks, but I just don't think it's going to happen. And I think I'll take the Suns in 7.
I'll say, like I said, I'd say Bucks in 7. My heart says CP3 because I've been a CP3 fan and a believer for a very long time. But I'm really interested to see Drew Holiday on Devin Booker in this series because I think that's who he's going to match up with. I don't think he's going to guard Chris Paul. I think that'll be somebody else. I'm not sure exactly who Milwaukee throws on him, but Drew Holiday in a couple games this year defended Booker as tough as I think anybody in the league. And those are the kind of guys who Holiday really matches up with really well defensively. Now that's the thing. Offensively, if he's going to keep giving you stuff he gave you in games 5 and 6, then their offense is phenomenal because Giannis is going to get his, like I said, even if he's only at like 80%, I still think he averages around 25 to 30 points a game in this series. And I'm a believer in Middleton as well. I think Middleton, he's proven over this playoff run that he's delivered in some of the biggest spots when his teams really needed him. So I think you can count on Middleton a lot. And like I said, I really just think that series where Giannis got hurt just opened Budenholzer's eyes a little bit to do some different things when either Giannis sits or even when Giannis is on the court, because you can use Middleton and Holiday as ball handlers more than they had been in the past because they still weren't doing it a ton, really. They were still steady dose of Giannis pick and roll with whoever, really, it was. But that's why I'm going with the Bucks because I like the matchup for them, even if Giannis isn't at 100%. But I think he's going to be fairly close to it.
I just think I slept on the Suns all year. It's not like they snuck into the playoffs. They were in charge of the West for
they had the second best record in the league by a game under Utah. They were playing the last game of the season for the best overall record in the league,
and they beat both LA teams. So I'm tired. I'm done sleeping on the Suns. I think they're a legitimate.
They're the real deal. I think these are both two legitimate finals teams. I really believe
one doesn't have their superstar at full health. That's that bottom line. That's why I'm taking the other team.
I don't think this should be an asterisk type season at all. I don't really don't, because I think both of these teams earned it and made it there. And it was a weird season for everybody. I know there was a ton of injuries. Everybody started at the same time. Everybody knew when it was going to happen. All the shit that they were condensing into this schedule, and Phoenix, to their credit, took it serious all year long because they didn't just mail in the regular season. We're like, okay, we don't care who we get in the playoffs like some other teams did. Milwaukee, they did similar things. I know they finished third in the East, but they were also trying to incorporate Drew Holiday, and they were trying to just figure that out before they got to the playoffs, and it worked because they made it to the finals. Finally, Giannis can say he made it to the finals. I say finally. He's only like 26 years old, and the other side, CP has been one of the best players in the league, and he didn't make it until he was 36. So
exactly.
I think Chris Paul would have traded in a finals run at 26 if he could.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be
finals
a
MVP.
Series.
You got the Suns. Give me your finals MVP.
Devin Booker.
Okay.
I hope they don't just give it to Chris Paul. Like if he just averages like 14 and 6, but clearly he's like a fucking, playing at the rate. But if Booker goes off for 30 a game, I don't want them giving it to Chris Paul just because
sentimental reasons.
Yeah, give it to the guy who earned it. So I believe it would be Devin Booker if the Suns win.
Okay.
I'm assuming it would be Giannis. Oh, you think it's going to be Middleton?
I'm going Middleton. I think Middleton's going to be their best player in the series. I really do.
So you think he'll carry it over because he's been very, very up and down
Yes.
all throughout his career.
I mean, again, he's like I said, I think he's so comparable to Paul George. He has moments where the game where he scored like 30 or 20 in the fourth quarter. I think the next game, I think he only had like 17 points or something like that. So, I mean, that's possible that he can do. But I mean, hey, if he averages 27 in the series and Giannis doesn't look at 100% or whatever and isn't full Giannis, and Middleton has some late game heroics in a few games that win the game for him, that's sometimes all it takes.
That's interesting.
It doesn't always go to the best player on the team. I mean,
that's right.
That
sometimes
happened.
It goes to the guy who holds a guy to 30.
Andre Iguodala won when Steph Curry averaged like 27 in the 15 finals, and Kawhi Leonard won when not leading his team in scoring. So, I mean, it's happened before over the course of history. So, and I think it'll happen. I think it could happen again. But that's my prediction. Bucks in 7. Chris Middleton's your Finals MVP.
Okay, I got Suns in 7 with Devin Booker as your Finals MVP.
But I'm excited, man. This, like I said, this is like the first Finals in like, it might even be closer to 15 years.
Where you just get to sit back and be a fan.
If I don't want somebody to win, or if obviously since LeBron's been in all, I want LeBron to win every time he's in there. But if neither team that I like or if a team I'm rooting against, I hate when they win. So you know how that goes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be interesting.
I am too.
I think Game 1 could tell a lot because they will have. I guess the Suns will have.
I think the first couple
rest.
minutes it'll be clunky basketball between both teams. Nerves, everything, just kind of getting it all out. I think you'll see that in the first couple minutes of Game 1 tomorrow night.
But I hope everybody stays healthy and we have a good series to watch.
I agree, and I think we will.
You got anything else?
No, man. That's all. I mean, other than just please go subscribe, rate.
I'm assuming
review.
you didn't come hot with the Jay's Corner.
All right. If you want to do it, I don't have any question or anything to ask you. I'll just say, what Marvel movie did you leave off on? Where are you at now?
We're still on Black Panther. We haven't watched Black Panther yet.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Almost put it on the way home from Michigan, but I don't know. I haven't got around to watching it yet, but that's the next one.
Did you guys not drive?
I did drive.
I was driving. Watch it in the car while you were driving?
Yeah, I watched Shameless a bunch of the way.
That is not good life advice.
I watched Shameless a bunch of the way. We were catching up on that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Don't listen to that part of Jay's Corner. Don't watch TV shows and movies while you drive. Yeah. Unless you're not the one driving and you're sitting in the passenger seat. But if you're both trying to watch and drive, that's very dangerous.
Take Nick's advice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Jay.
All right. Let's get out of here on that one. Until next time.
All right. Until next time.